baby. Go, sexy, show me some.
Taking it as Bergeron, nicely able to step away. From Winnipeg, they score!
Here's a chance, Patra right in, and goal, he scores. Oh my, what a move by the rookie.
2-on-1, Pasternak moving in with Marchand, get it to it, score!
Into the zone, Hoyle dances in, backhand, score!
Lindholm, right wing corner, Pasternak is there, he scores! David Pasternak wins it for Boston!
Talk about it, figure out why. We look at it, what we're doing sports science-wise. We'll come up with answers, But right now, I don't have an answer for you.
Do you think conditioning or endurance or anything like that has been an issue?
We thought so during camp, but we don't think so anymore.
Jim, do you question whether they're listening?
No, I don't question that.
So what's preventing it from the message getting through?
It's up for you guys to figure that out and come up with a reason. We just weren't good enough. You guys can write what you guys think is the malaise on the team and what's going wrong. We're just not playing good enough.
Welcome in, everyone, to Bruins Tape to Tape. We are recording on Tuesday evening, November 12th. I will be your host tonight, Maria from Watertown, welcoming in my co-host, Karoline with a K. How are you, Karoline?
Well, it's an interesting time to be a Bruins fan.
That's to say the least. And as our listeners will note, we led in tonight's show with some interesting post-game audio from Jim Montgomery after the game against Ottawa. Jim sounded a bit defeated. The press conference itself was short and sweet. Unfortunately, our podcast will likely not be as short and sweet because there were many things to dissect from that brief clip of Jim Montgomery, as well as notable things that are occurring with the Boston Bruins in not only these most recent games, but patterns that we are seeing develop, mostly somewhat troubling patterns. But before we start taking a deep dive into the week that was, we are going to talk a little bit also about some interesting news that the Boston Bruins made this week involving a mystery or not mysterious injury to David Pasternak, and the timeline of that injury, which is a bit bizarre to say the least. The other head scratching thing that occurred this week, in addition to the Bruins play that is driving us a bit batty, is the decision to send Matt Patra down to the Providence Bruins. Third period issues there is a laundry list of things that we are going to chat about this evening. So in our typical fashion, we would normally, break down each of the games and talk in some, detail with regard to those games. I believe that many of our listeners and viewers likely watch these games and have seen the same things that we have seen. But I think at this point of the season, given that we're getting ever so close to the targeted U.S. Thanksgiving date, where you look at your team holistically, and that's when you can sometimes separate the men from the boys. Yep. And I think we're starting to get a little bit on edge, or not on edge, ill at ease with the Boston Bruins. But in the meantime, we did have we do have some fun things to talk about with respect to news around the NHL. And that is that this weekend was Hall of Fame induction weekend in Toronto. And the class itself included the likes of Shea Weber, Jeremy Roenick. There were a couple of professional female hockey players. We have Chrissy Wendell Piol, Natalie Darwitz, Pavel Datsuk, who is, one of those guys, man. I just don't think that he ever got enough love in the league. He just had magic hands, and he was so critical to the success of the Detroit Red Wings, and that franchise, and that, to some degree dynasty, because they won so many Stanley Cups. But the one I would encourage all of you, each of these individuals made a speech, and the speech that really impacted me and hit me was the speech that Jeremy Roenick made. And I would encourage all of you, if you have a passion for hockey and USA hockey, because Jeremy Roenick is a USA hockey guy, listen to his speech and the sincerity with which he makes statements about certain people in his life that literally saved his life, because he was in a bad place, a dark place. So yeah, take a look at that. We'll post the link to the speeches in our show notes. The other thing that's happening around the league is injury bug, which we all know is going to happen at some point in time. The New York Islanders are literally decimated with injuries right now. I also believe that Anthony Mantha is out for the rest of the season with the torn ACL. Not that we, shed in a lot of tears, but never wish injury on anybody. But Max Pacioretty for the Maple Leafs is out week to week, and I think there's something still ailing Austin Matthews, because he did miss the game against the Bruins last week, and I believe he was going to be missing another game.
I don't think he's been back.
Over the weekend. So, this stuff happens. No team is immune from it. But I tell you,
I wish we had this happening to the Bruins, because I have no other answers.
Well, we could have a built-in excuse, right?
We'd have an excuse. We have no excuse. It's terrible.
Everyone keeps telling us they're healthy, they're good. Okay, all right.
Are you? Okay.
Oh yeah. Yep. Okay. I'm not sure what to believe anymore. To be truthful, I'm not sure who to believe or what to believe. But with that being said, before we start breaking down our beloved Boston Bruins, let's hear from our sponsors.
There's nothing like seeing a hockey game live, especially an NHL game. But ticket prices can be outrageous these days. That's why I use the Game Time app. Game Time has tickets for all kinds of live events. Plus, they have a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see the Bruins play live even easier. I love how I can get curated deals that make it easier to find the best prices on seats, and I can preview the seat view before I buy. And the lowest price guarantee is huge. Tickets at TD Garden don't come cheap these days. Game Time guarantees the lowest price, or they will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code THPN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code THPN for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. The quest for the Stanley Cup starts now. The puck's dropping on the 24-25 season. Get in on all the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. It's super easy for first-timers to get started. Try betting on something simple like picking a team to win. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app, select your team, and place your first bet. Maria and I like to put a little money down on individual player performances. And if you're new to DraftKings, listen up. New customers bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in New Hampshire, Oregon, and Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ftball. NFL Plus Premium offer available only to new and former NFL Plus subscribers. Additional NFL Plus Premium terms at nfl.com/terms.
Okay, so let's start with what I think should be the easy topics for tonight. We'll start with the sending of Matt Poitras down to Providence. Now, I'm not quite sure I understand, because no one's explained to us the rationale for sending him back down to Providence. I can theorize myself why I think he may have been sent down to Providence, but I'd like to get your take before I throw my 2 cents in.
So when I first saw the tweet from the Bruins saying that he'd been assigned, and I didn't even think of it as even possibly being a paper transaction. And of course, it was confirmed later on that it wasn't a paper transaction, that he did indeed stay behind while the team flew out to St. Louis. My initial reaction was a little bit of puzzlement. And I immediately posted on Threads that this is very reminiscent of the meme of the woman with the small bucket of water trying to throw it onto a giant flame. Is it going to do anything for the team? No, 100% nothing. The only thing that I can think of, because I haven't heard, and maybe you have, Maria, but I haven't heard of anyone being called up in his stead. So I don't know who's taking place for tonight's game. We are recording before the St. Lawrence, that's my alma mater, St. Louis game.
Yeah.
So it's not like they sent him down to bring somebody else up.
Right.
And
that would be the logical approach, you would think, right?
Right. The only thing I can think of is that it is purely for his own benefit, for whatever reason. Now, we've talked a little bit about this in past episodes. Actually, I think we even talked about this last week. The question mark of, is he, when he's out there on the ice, is he playing in a way that is protecting of himself, right? We've talked about this, how he's got to be a little bit more careful in that sense. And the idea has been floated out in various places. Maybe he should go and spend a little bit more time down in Providence to kind of work on that. And so that was in the back of my mind, but also what this kind of told me was they're pulling him from the lineup, and instead of just having him be a scratch where he does nothing, scratch him, but send him to Providence so he's still getting ice time and he's still being physically active. But that then makes me question, well, how long do you plan to not have him up? And do you really think that that is some kind of impactful solution to the larger problem? Because I guess I'm questioning the motivation. What's the MO here? Like, again, you didn't call anybody up in his place. If somebody was coming up, if it was a cap thing and they were like, you know what, we just got to do a little bit of fancy footwork and we got to send you down, whatever, like that would make sense to me. But I think that's what is really giving me pause and questioning what is the plan here, because I'm also then wondering, why him? He's one of your fastest players on the roster at this point. He has a level of jump that we have not seen from most of these players. And so he's the one that you're going to sit and send down? Him. When in my mind, and we've talked about this already quite a bit, you've got bigger fish to fry with some other higher profile players who are not either doing their job or they're doing a bad job with the things that they've been assigned. And I keep looking at David Pasternak and, Chucky, Charlie McAvoy, and I'm questioning what is happening here and why is the coaching staff not making more aggressive moves, decisions, changes around these guys. I just think it's, they're getting wrapped up in piddly little things that I don't think are actually in the long run going to make a difference, as opposed to addressing some of the larger problems with these key players. For the love of God, and I know you're probably going to bring this up later, but we got to get Charlie McAvoy off of power play one.
He sucks.
I've seen enough.
No, he sucks.
Enough.
I'm sorry, Charlie, but you suck as the quarterback of a power play unit. Yeah, and we're going to get to that because we're actually going to play a little game, folks, called the blame game during the course of this podcast. So there's enough blame pie to go around here. And it's not exclusive to just players. Players need to play. Coaches need to coach. And we're gonna tie all of that in during round one of our blame game. With regard to Matt Poitras, my theory, and again, it's just my theory, because I know that I've said this in social media, I've said it on our podcast. He is not long for the NHL if he does not learn to not put himself in vulnerable positions and keep his head up. Now, given the way this team is currently playing, the Bruins can ill afford, with having a young player like this, who is a good player, has the potential to be a good player. And you have to view them as a future and as an asset. It sounds kind of cold, but they're an asset, these players.
Right.
They need to protect him from himself. And the fact of the matter is, he's not protecting himself, and we're not really seeing the players around him protecting him. So they can't risk having this kid take the next hit or the next hit after that as another hit that's going to put him out for a significant period of time after he's just recovering still from this shoulder surgery that he had, right? So That's my, and people lost their minds on social media, rightly so, right?
Yeah.
Fire Monty, fire Sweeney. Why does, you're going to bring Geeky back in
Yeah.
and send this kid down? But I honestly
Yeah.
think it's more because they need to fix. They need to
protect him.
Correct. But they need to fix this team first so they can put him in the best position to succeed with the big boy club.
Yeah.
And he's better
I think it was
served.
just a case of, it's optics, right?
No,
The
it is
optics,
always yes.
the timing, the lack
yes.
of
Have you
kind
met
of
the Boston Bruins? Have you met the Boston Bruins?
I know. Yeah. I was taken aback. Purely, I think, because of
we
the
all
timing of
were.
the announcement.
Because we're
Like,
thinking,
what?
who's
You
coming
think
up?
that's
You're
gonna
sending
fix
him down.
that's
Who's
gonna
coming up?
things?
Right. And even Monty said, he, Matt Poitras, amongst many other players, has gotten very quiet in recent games, right? They're not seeing the production that they might have been expecting from him, coupled with he took some hits, right? They weren't dirty hits, but they were hits that you've got to know that that's coming, young man.
Right.
You've got to learn that. And he's probably better suited because honestly, I'm not sure that the Bruins have time to teach that right now because they've got bigger fish to fry with this team.
Yeah.
So
And
put the
I
kid
imagine-
in a safe and successful environment.
And I imagine they want to give him the ability to grow some of his confidence because of some struggles, and he has the luxury kind of to be able to get sent down to the AHL where he is, I sure as hell hope, would be a top talent. And so he's going to get a ton of minutes. He's going to get that conditioning that maybe he can't get right now because when things are bad, the coaching staff is going to look to and rely on their top players. So those are the people who are going to get the most minutes. And so it is a win-win. And I would say if the Bruins hadn't had such a horrible showing at the end of that Senators game, nobody would have batted an eye to the sending down of Matt Poitras. Nobody would have batted an eye because I think we all understand kind of what's going on, like with the sending of him down. But the other half of that equation is very confusing because it's, well, okay, you're sending him down to Providence for his benefit. Great. But
that's my theory. I'm not saying that's just my theory, right?
Yeah.
Just full
but like,
disclosure, folks.
What is though the benefit to the Bruins? Because nobody came up in his place. So like, I understand the investment in the future, but the house is on fire right now. And again, you're the old woman with the small bucket of water trying to throw it onto this massive kitchen fire. Like, what are you doing? I don't know. So
this is so interesting, right? Interesting, but not in a good way, because the last 2 seasons have been smooth sailing, right? And so it was difficult to find things to find fault with, to point fingers at.
Yeah.
Here we are, November 12th. We are 16 games in, and we have had any number of topics of conversation, most of them that have not been awesome topics of conversation.
Yeah.
This is just another one in, the arm's length of those conversations with this decision. What I don't want to see happen to this kid is the yo-yoing back and forth. If you're going to, Mason Lohrei went through a little bit of this last season
too.
right? Right. And
Sure,
it
yep.
served both of them well, but I think there's always that transition or that thought in the back of your mind, and maybe that's intentional, saying, if I don't put my best foot forward, I'm likely to get sent back down again.
Yeah.
Now,
Mhm.
that could be a good thing or a bad thing to have that thought in your head, right?
Yeah.
But
Yep. Well,
so that
and to the point that, we've been talking about questioning again, what is the immediate benefit to the Bruins in this case? I threw out the question right before we hopped on tonight. What comments, questions do folks have for us to talk about? And one of our listeners, Procrastinating Chaos, she kind of just made more of a statement, but it's nearly spot on to kind of what we've already just been talking about, which is, she's saying the Bruins getting rid of Bruins isn't going to help the Bruins. Now, in her case, she's saying this is in reference to rumors around Monty not getting re-signed and Freddie being traded. But it's kind of the same thing. Even here in this case with Matt Patra, I can make the same exact argument. Okay, just getting rid of someone to get rid of someone isn't going to help the team unless there is something in return, right? So like, okay, you sent this kid down for his own good, but who is there waiting in the wings? I have no idea. Like it's the game is starting in an hour and a half. I haven't checked the lines yet, but I have no idea who is waiting in the wings. Nobody worth, it sounds horrible, but like nobody who's really gonna make a huge difference at this point. So, I think for the first round of the blame game, I mean, I look 75% of 75, 80%, right? Maybe 85%. I blame the players. But the first thing, of course, we're talking about is what are non-skating personnel doing, the decisions that are being made, right? Like whether it's, I'm not sure in this case who makes that decision. I'm assuming it's Jim Montgomery.
I would think that it's done in conjunction with Dawn Sweeney.
Yeah. Right. Like it's on the advice of Jim Montgomery, and Don is the one who signs off on it, whatever. But so, I question, okay, what's the plan? And what are you doing in terms of how you're making changes, right? And that kind of just goes back to, again, my comments about Charlie McAvoy. But that's part one, round one.
We're gonna get there. The next interesting piece of, I don't know if it was breaking news or maybe it was news that David Pastrnak wasn't intending to address in the last couple of days, but it was very weird. And in case folks aren't aware, there was a posting for from a Czech reporter or Czech writer about an injury that David Pastrnak was dealing with after the World
over the summer,
the World Championships over in Czech Republic. Now, initially there was conversation about some of it was taken out of context. Then there was a post on allegedly David Pasternak's Facebook page, which David Pastrnak said is not his Facebook page. But the long and short of it was, back on September 30th, he had said, I had a couple of bruises and bumps during the summer that I couldn't train for a little bit, so I had to take a couple of weeks off. But at the same time, it was kind of lucky timing. It was during my wedding and all that stuff. So it kind of worked out. Obviously not ideal, but now I'm back to 100% and glad that I got it over with. Now, I don't understand any of this. I don't understand the timeline of it. All I know is that I happened to come across my radio on Monday, and David Pastrnak was on the radio with a local sports talk radio show.
Really?
Where he was calling in to help promote the Paddles and Pucks event that's coming up here. I think might be this week, if I'm not mistaken. And so they exchanged niceties with the radio show hosts, and then they got right down to big business, asking about this injury, and whether or not, because we've had our concerns about David Pastrnak, along with many other players on this roster to start the season.
Yeah.
And he, in no certain terms, what he said was that he was actually kind of shocked that this was being talked about right now, that he needed to address it right now because it happened back then, and that he's 100% now. So,
you sure about that, David?
Yeah, I'm asking, what is it much ado about nothing?
I mean, in terms of
now,
really
this comes on the heels of questions being raised about the overall conditioning of this team in general. And honestly, I think I've said this before on one of our podcasts. To me, training camp was a colossal waste of time for the veterans.
Was so poorly. But the thing is, at this point, 16 games in, all of that should be, washed away, right? At this point, you've played enough, you've practiced enough, you've had enough games, regardless of however training camp was managed, it shouldn't matter anymore.
That's what Monty's saying.
And I agree.
It was a problem
right?
to start the season, but it's not now.
Right. So I'm of the mindset at this point, I think that this is mental. Either an attitude issue, like I don't think this is physical, ultimately, is what I'm saying. I don't think that, we've talked about this, we've speculated in the Discord group and everywhere. Something's not right with Pasta. He must be injured. Something is holding him back. It almost seems for him, I don't know if it's like, I don't want to say that his heart isn't in it, because I don't think that that's true. But I see instances of him, not committing to a play fully in a way that we've seen him in the past. Back checking from the forwards has been a massive problem this season, and it's ultimately then setting up the defense for failure, because now they're trying to do both the back checking that forwards are having to do, and then they can't get into their position fast enough and in time to do their job. Not to say that they've been doing a phenomenal job even when they're in position. It's just like, that's the best I can explain it. It's, I don't want to necessarily come out and say like, oh, they're being lazy, or they're actively choosing to do the bare minimum to get to where they need to go. And I say that because, I've heard that theory out there as well. I think friend of the pod, Brian, was talking about it on the skate pod. I think it was him saying, are they just trying to do the bare minimum? I don't think that that's the case. And the only reason why I think that that's not the case is because I don't think that aligns with the Bruin culture as far as I've understood it for, the last 15 years, that you don't half-ass it, right? You don't only give the bare minimum % of effort. Like that doesn't seem on brand, but yet that's what it looks like. I don't know. I can't explain it. I don't understand it. But the number of times, for example, that I've seen David Pastrnak go in, really hot, crash the net, and he's just like not even taking that extra moment to just flip the puck up over, a leg pad. The giveaways are sloppy. Now, again, lots and lots of people have talked about it. Like, of course, the top scorers in the entire league are always going to have the highest number of turnovers. That is
Giveaways
math.
are gonna happen. Egregious ones are
statistic.
inexcusable. There are those
That's
instances
statistics.
where
Right. But
you
what
want the puck
happens
on his
after
stick.
those,
right
after the turnovers, what happens next is what matters. And that's why it is a particular problem with David Pastrnak, because nobody can kind of make up for that in this case. So I can't that's what I think frustrates me and confuses me, because what I see out there in the third period isn't necessarily them incapable of skating and keeping up, but they're just checked out mentally, emotionally. They're just like, I'm here, I'm doing it, but I can't or won't do the extra work, the extra effort, the extra thing, the follow through, the 110%. And that I don't understand, because there are players who are not doing that. There are, right? I think Brad Marchand, continues to give 200%. There's only so much that one player can do, right? Jeremy Swayman has consistently been the best player out on the ice. Korpisalo has consistently been the best player out on the ice. We've seen Pavel Zacha's game turn a corner. He's been having a great couple of games. But where is everybody else? And I look to leadership once again, because who is behaving and playing in this very dissatisfactory, I almost want to say lazy, lackadaisical manner? David Pastrnak and Charlie McAvoy.
Uninspired hockey. The term uninspired hockey comes to mind. And
like,
that
are
is
you
not
worried about other things that your heart and your mind are not present? Because that's what it looks like. That's what their game looks like. You are not here present on this ice playing this game right now. That's what it looks like to me.
And it really concerns me when I hear the coach of this team, who has been being referred to as lame duck coach, because he hasn't been extended. There's been no conversation anywhere in any of the social media circles that we follow with NHL insiders about any extension talks when it comes to Jim Montgomery. When I hear a coach say, I don't have any answers for our third period woes, to which I say, Coach, you better find the answers sooner rather than later, or you're going to end up being the fall guy for what ails this team.
And I feel for him. I have empathy in this moment, because I'm struggling right now to truly identify what it would take. So another one of our listener questions for this week from Real Dudist Monk, what do you feel this team needs to do to get to the level where they want to be? And I struggle as a diehard hockey fan. I probably watch 81 of the 82 regular season games. I know this team. I know their system. I understand how they play, and I cannot articulate what the actual problem is, because it almost seems like They just need a smack upside the head.
Yeah,
I don't know what else to say.
They are undisciplined.
Because it's all mental and it's all attitude in my mind.
They are undisciplined. They are unable.
They seem lazy, uncommitted.
A 60-minute game. We have seen periods here or there. So couple that, unable to play 60 minutes, playing undisciplined hockey. Your special teams units are an abomination. An abomination.
An embarrassment.
Okay? No, it's a freaking abomination at this point in time. Okay. Your penalty kill, which has always been an area of strength for a Boston Bruins team, is failing them when they need it most in order to give them some semblance of hope and life after you kill off, rather than fixing what's wrong with everyone else's power play unit when you're having teams coming in who haven't scored a power play goal in who knows how many games, yet they play you and they can score them in buckets, i.e. the Dallas Stars, the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, we're going to get to all of that, folks. But before that, we're going to take another short break to hear from one more of our kind sponsors, and then we'll get down to the nitty-gritty.
Every year, I'm on the hunt for that special deal on a gadget for myself or my family. It's also a bit stressful needing to wait until the literal end of November to find it. Except with Raycon, because with Raycon, you get an amazing deal on premium audio every day of the year. But that doesn't mean they're not having any sales for Black Friday and Cyber Monday. Far from it. They're actually doubling down on their amazing value by offering our viewers up to 30% site-wide. A Black Friday, Cyber Monday deal you'll appreciate every day? Raycon's Everyday Earbuds. Especially if you haven't checked out their latest model, which includes plenty of new features that make them even more a must-have for any audio lover. For example, they now feature a 32-hour battery life and multi-point connectivity that lets you pair with 2 devices at once. Raycon's Everyday Earbuds also come with active noise cancellation. It's a feature that's a must-have for me when I'm watching the Bruins play, but one that can be difficult to find at an accessible price point, until now. Because that's another thing. Although Raycon's quality rivals some of the biggest names in premium audio, Raycons start at just half the price as the other guys. So they're already an incredible deal, even before you factor in their Black Friday and Cyber Monday offer of up to 30% off site-wide. Personally, I find them to be stylish and comfortable. Raycon's Everyday Earbuds are also available in a variety of vibrant colors, so you don't have to just have the standard issued white or black earbuds sticking out of your ears. I love purple, but I am really eyeing those red ones right now. Now's the perfect time to scoop them up if you haven't already, and don't worry if you're not as impressed as I am. Raycon offers a 30-day happiness guarantee, so you really can't lose. It's time to save big for Black Friday and Cyber Monday. Go to buyraycon.com/THPN today to get up to 30% off site-wide. That's right, you'll get up to 30% off everything on Raycon's website when you go to buyraycon.com/THPN.
Okay, folks, we're back. And we're going to get down to dissecting this Boston Bruins team and the games that were played last week. We will start with the game on November 5th against the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Do we have to?
We have to. We have to, because this sets the table for the Bruins malaise. Okay?
2.5 years, Maria, we have not lost to this team. And the last time the Bruins lost, that game basically had all AHLers because I think it was the last game of the season 2 years ago. So And they got
Now, mind you,
blanked.
the Maple Leafs were without Austin Matthews. You lost the game 4-0, while the pace of play in the first, I'd say, period and a half was good. I thought, okay.
Yeah.
Then it goes to hell in a handbasket when the Bruins start taking penalties.
Yeah.
The Toronto Maple Leafs went 3 for 7. 3 for 7. You went 0 for 6. 0 for
They had
freaking
7.
6.
I don't know what's worse. I don't know what's
Okay?
worse. That they
0
went
for
3 for
freaking
7 or the
6.
fact that they had 7.
Okay? Right?
Yeah.
You were beat up in the faceoff dot. They won 54, almost 55% of the faceoffs, where you barely won 45% of your faceoffs. 14 giveaways. 14 giveaways. So to me, special teams that night was a shit show. A continued shit show.
Yeah.
Then we fast forward to the game against Calgary. Okay.
Completely
yeah,
different team.
You won that game. But
But
you were
look
lucky.
who showed up, right?
Right.
Look who
You were lucky.
responded to that loss. And I think that tells you something. You know, I'm not asking Brad Marchand to necessarily show up as the hero, as the main guy in every single game, because you can't. Okay. So he has shown up and done his job very well in a majority of the most recent games. So he is allowed to have a game where he's not shouldering the entire burden of this team. That's why you have alternate captains. That's why you have other lettered leaders
right,
on your team. But I am also not even remotely surprised that he had a phenomenal game against Calgary in spite of 2 hits of the post, which was great. Not really. And even in game, having a responsive approach. He took a really stupid penalty. Calgary
You beat me
scored
to that. He took
basically immediately.
Correct.
Immediately. And, you can argue, oh, that penalty was, because he's Brad Marchand and that's the reputation. And to this day, he's going to be held to a different standard. Whatever. Doesn't matter.
He got that penalty because he was a dumbass. Usually I stick up for him, but he was a dumbass.
Right.
He was a dumbass.
Yes.
And that kind of corroborates our, their lack of
he's getting
focus,
frustrated too.
Awareness, frustration, trying to do too much. You can name any number of things.
Yeah.
But that was an ill-advised penalty when you had a 2-1 lead.
Yes. But he more than made up for it. And I would say this was the first game that we saw Elias Lindholm really start to come into the role that he was hired to play. He's been a very quiet in the sense, not that he hasn't been performing. He's kind of been quietly growing his game. And I think also there's just been so much other noise, especially, everyone's always constantly talking about Nikita Zadorov and whatever. that nobody's really been paying much attention to him, but I've been extremely pleased with him. And to really start to see him click with the likes of Brad Marchand. I mean, he had one of his very best games. His work behind the net was phenomenal. I mean, he is the reason, he's basically the reason why Brad Marchand was able to be that hero in overtime, because he was committed to that puck and playing the man, and he got back behind the net and he dug in and he battled and he popped that puck over to Brad Marchand, who was sitting in his office right there in front of the crease, who got it in. So he's been doing a phenomenal job. I think he's trending in the right direction in Boston. You know, Hampus had a really good game, but
I thought it was Hampus's best game of the season, which is
100%.
frustrating in and of itself.
I know.
Frustrating in and of itself because it's not happening with a regular recurring basis. But that he started the scoring off in that game because he was aggressive. He dropped in down low in the offensive zone and put a shot by the Calgary goalie for, you know, a 1-0 lead. Then the Bruins, you know, again, they scored 2 quick goals. They had a 3-1 lead, if I'm not mistaken. And they let Calgary back in.
It's almost like this season, if the Bruins give an inch, they also give a mile.
Give a mile.
And I that's the part that's kind of frustrating, because we saw the exact same thing happen with the Senators,
because
right?
they don't have the ability to take that lead, stay aggressive on the offense, but shut down. I don't even care if you score, really. I mean, ideally, yes. But
I mean, in this league today, you got to score 4 goals minimum if you want to have a shot at winning the game.
But what you can't do is take ill-advised penalties. Okay, now you're at 3-2 in the third period, and you're giving the other team hope.
Yeah,
you're giving them hope.
100%.
Whereas,
100%.
you know, what you should be doing is making it miserable and difficult for them to think that they have the chance to come back and win a game. So, you know, all in all, the Calgary game, I'd say it was a decent bounce back game. And they took the extra point, which they very much needed. And Brad Marchand seemed to be on a mission to make sure that they got that extra point in overtime.
Yeah.
Now I'm looking at the final shots on goal in this period. Let's see. In the third period, not too bad. They had 8 shots on goal to Calgary's 10 in the third period.
But that's what we have seen even in good games. You know, we saw that with the Kraken, where they had a great start to the game, but the Kraken kind of started coming back, and they outshot the Bruins in that third period. The Bruins, again, played a really great, exciting, competitive game against Calgary. They were slipping by the third period.
Yes.
And, you know, to just jump ahead now to the Senators game.
Oh, yeah.
It was a little bit more evenly matched than I was hoping. There was a lot of north-south activity. Neither side was able to really set up camp in one end or the other. But regardless, you know, I don't think I've ever seen a third period, any period, where the Bruins are shotless.
Linus Ullmark in that game went over an hour before he faced a shot on goal. And I don't think that shot on goal that he faced happened until the overtime period.
Yeah,
And it was
correct.
an excellent save.
It was great, especially
It was a
considering
great-
he'd been sitting around for an hour.
Sitting around, right? You think, oh my God, he's, not going to be focused or whatever. Nope.
Mhm.
Nope. And
Yeah.
who scores the game-winning goal in that game? Another
The Kachuk that we
freaking
like.
Kachuk, okay?
Or at least less, dislike
Oh,
less.
yeah, another freaking Kachuk. But, all joking aside, the fact that you couldn't muster with the roster that you have, you
Mhm.
could not muster a shot on goal in the third period against the Ottawa Senators
Mhm.
is disturbing, very disturbing. And that's what led to Jim Montgomery's post-game press conference, very brief, albeit, that we played at the beginning of our episode tonight. To me, he sounded defeated.
Mhm.
Defeated and like deer in the headlights, like I don't even know what to do with these guys anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I mean, I have no words. I don't know ultimately what the solution is. I think if Jim Montgomery doesn't really start to make significant changes in anything and everything, then that would make me question a little bit his grasping of the severity of his own situation, because he has to be fully aware that if things continue the way that they are right now, there's no extension. And worst case scenario, he's going to be unemployed by the end of the calendar year. So
it might happen before. It might happen before then, and we can.
I mean, yeah, certainly.
Yeah, it might happen
if
before
things really
then.
continue.
Yeah. It might
would
happen
probably be
before then,
Thanksgiving.
because
But regardless,
right.
if he can understand and see the writing on the wall, and he's clearly a man who is comfortable with throwing out the status quo, then go all out. Go all out. Go crazy with your power, with your special teams.
But here's
go
my
to
question.
town.
Right.
Because I
Here's
want to
my
see
question, though.
that.
This and maybe we should start the blame game right now with these questions. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, we can't blame him for the roster because he did not construct the roster. I have yet to find I don't think this is a bad roster. It's not as bad as how it's
playing like garbage. So right
Okay.
now they are a bad roster.
So right now, because of the way that they're playing, okay, he meaning Jim Montgomery, does not appear to have a great deal of hesitancy this season in mixing up lines, right or wrong. We question, why did he put this guy here? Why doesn't he do that? Okay, fine, right? That's what we do because we have to talk about it and we want to talk about it. Why are we not making changes to the power play personnel and the penalty kill personnel? Why are we being so goddamn stubborn when you see that it's not flipping working.
Yeah.
So I ask you, who's to blame for that? Who do we hold accountable for that?
I mean, that's straight up a coaching decision. And not only the special teams, but I also kind of just realized, as much as he throws the forward rosters into the blender, and he does move up and down his top players, even, within the top 6, I don't believe we have seen Charlie McAvoy play any position other than first D.
What
Why
is he
Why not?
giving you? Yeah, that's so special right now. What is he giving
David
you there?
Pasternak wasn't on the top line. He was put down on the second line.
You benched him in one period. You did your little, kind of in your face approach with Brad Marchand.
I want to see.
You sat Morgan Geekie for 3 games in a row. We have, Morgan Geekie, maybe his first game back tonight, presumably, right?
I would assume.
Can you tell me what Charlie McAvoy is giving you right now? Can you tell me what Charlie Coyle is giving you right now?
Right. I want to see if Jim really understands the writing on the wall, then blow it all up. Why not? What do they have to lose? They've already lost 8-2. So put Charlie McAvoy on the second D pair with Brandon Carlo. Put Charlie Coyle on with on the fourth C. If apparently the job is too hard and you can't take on the responsibility and the leadership while you're on the ice, like, sure, last year maybe they could. Apparently this year they can't. So put them on those lower lines. Who at this point, it sounds insane, but what do we have to lose? It's already been a handful of embarrassing games. I no longer have shame. Beyond shame at this point.
Yeah,
So
I'm just, and I'm looking down at this roster right now. I'm even, and again, we're playing the blame game here. But Trent Frederick, please tell me what he's bringing right now. Please tell me what he's bringing right now. Bupkis. Okay. He's played in every game so far.
How come he's not been sat?
Right. He's got a total of 3 freaking points. And he's a -11. A -11.
So you scratch Morgan Geekie. You scratch Morgan Geekie, fine. I'm not disagreeing with that call. Sure.
Right. But how
you send Matt Patra to Providence.
Right.
Fine. I don't disagree with that. But Trent Frederick, I'm not saying, he should be traded. At this point, I don't have a vendetta against him like Momo does.
Well,
but
I'm telling you, mine is building. Mine is building. And I am indifferent to him. DeBrusk treatment. Okay. Wake me up when you do something that matters, Trent. Okay. Wake me up when you do something that matters.
Right. How has he gotten away with not being scratched? I don't understand it. And instead, we're seeing him bumped up. He's not the same player like Jake DeBrusk, who clearly needed that kind of challenge to be actually fully engaged with the team. I don't know what the hell he's doing, but he's not playing as a top 6 forward. And I'd rather at this point have him sit. Bring someone on.
And it's like robbing Peter to pay Paul, because Monty was forced to split up the unit of Kastelik, Kepke, and Beecher. And to some degree, it's been a little detrimental to those guys too, because even they have gone a little bit quiet,
Yep.
So again, players got to play, the coaches got to coach.
Yeah.
But
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand why, when you see that your special teams units, either
Mm-hmm.
you're being stubborn or the players are being stubborn in how they're executing
Mm-hmm.
those units, then you look on your bench and you say, you know what? You're not going out there, Charlie Mack. Okay. I'm going to put Mason Lowry out there. Right. What have you got to lose at this point? Risk reward. Right. What have you got to lose at this point?
Right. I agree. So we'll see what how they show up. I mean, in the St. Louis game, in our most recent mini short, they just got a spanking from Washington. They lost a ridiculous
8-1 beat
game
down at the hands of the Washington Capitals. But there's only a 2-point difference. Okay. This is when the Bruins better watch their back. It's games like this that will really give me serious pause for concern if you aren't able to take points from games such as this. Now, I ask you the question of, is inconsistency the best that we can expect or should expect from this Bruins team this season?
Can and should have different answers.
I know.
Should, absolutely not.
That's what I say.
Can
absolutely.
or will.
They haven't given
at this
us
point, I've seen enough. Nothing is going to change whether you trade a player. Trading the player doesn't, because the problem isn't the skill, right? It's not a team of nobodies and poor players. It's not. And even firing the coach maybe could have some kind of psychological effect on the team. Who knows? Maybe Monty has lost the room. And when he was answering the question, are they not listening? Maybe they're not. I don't know.
Well, according to our friends from the skate pod, Scott McLaughlin, Bridget Prue, and Brian DeFelice, Bridget doesn't believe that Monty has lost the room. So, they're in the room, they cover the team, right? They have a better sense than we do when it comes to things of that nature. But
did they know when Bruce lost his job?
Yeah, who knows? Who knows? I don't know. That's a very valid question. But here's a very scary stat, courtesy of Scott McLaughlin, who writes for WEEI. And this follows up on the 0 shots in the third period in the Ottawa Senators game. The 0 shot part was new for the Bruins. I can't even remember how long it had been, but it had been an extremely long time since the Bruins had registered a period with no shots on goal. However, the third period struggles are not a new thing. This season, the Bruins have been, so far, the worst third period team in the NHL. They have the worst third period goal differential, where they're at a -11, and the second worst third period shot differential, which is a -41.
I know.
A -41.
And they're about to also go play a Dallas team that is a +12 in their goal differential. Right. So you're talking almost a 24 goal differential. Like, it's insane. It's insane. But we got to catch this.
I put out a brief poll
game and see how it goes.
I know we've got a little bit of time, but my little poll that I put out the morning after about
Mm.
no shots on goal, the inconsistency. My question was, rightly or wrongly, will Jim Montgomery still be coaching the Bruins by the time we reach the February break? And an
No.
overwhelming 89% thought no. If this
I don't
pattern
think he's gonna make
continues,
I don't think he's
right?
going to make it to Thanksgiving.
You don't think he's going to make
I
it to
don't know.
Thanksgiving?
I don't know.
They do have a break.
Because
There is a break usually for Thanksgiving.
very brief.
I don't know. Let me see what.
And they play on the
usually
1st of December. So maybe
So
they want to
U.S.
get through to that.
Thanksgiving, actually, they don't get much of a break. U.S. Thanksgiving is on the
Mhm.
28th.
It's very late this
So
year.
they're playing the they've got a pretty full schedule. It's not, it's not a murderer's row schedule that's coming
Yeah.
up as we approach that date. But
Mhm.
me personally, if they're 500 with this series of games or below, I'm going to really question the viability of this group being a playoff team.
Yeah. Well, you better hope the rest of the Atlantic stays bad.
Yeah. And we're talking as if, they're scraping the bottom of the barrel. They are in a playoff spot right now, but it's because, their
Everyone else
conferences.
stinks too.
Right. Everyone else stinks too, but everyone's getting bunched up closer and closer and closer. So the Bruins better start watching their proverbial backs and get their shit together, because as we've said more than once, every point counts at this time of the year.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. So
with that said, folks, they're playing the Blues tonight. We can only hope that we see a 60-minute effort tonight. Then they've got the Dallas Stars on the 14th, which is no cupcake team.
Nope.
That is a
No.
legit Stanley Cup contending team, folks. So,
and Dallas will have been on a 2-day rest. So, they're going to be a little bit rested. But yeah. The last listener question.
Yes.
I want to bring some levity
Some
to
lightness
this
to this.
sadness. Was the hug between Lena Solmark and Jeremy Swayman long enough? Addie Zero asks. Much too short, obviously.
It was fine by me because I just wanted to have it out of the way so a hockey game could be played. Okay.
It was
so as much as I
delightful.
enjoyed the goalie hug when they were here and it was their thing to do here, although it might have been mocked in other circles, I was good with them being respectful competitors to each other. I'm sure that their heartfelt hugs took place outside of the watchful eyes of 18,000 people.
Yeah, exactly. Well, here's hoping we're less irritated at the end of this evening.
Well,
I don't know.
Hopefully next week's
Any
pod
final
will
thoughts?
be a little bit more uplifting, folks, but we can only talk
We're gonna
about
will it.
what we see.
We're going to will it. We're going to will it. But as always, thank you, Maria, for hosting this evening. Let's
pleasure.
go watch these Bruins play.
Let's
As
go
always,
see you. Let's
go
go get a
Bees.
W. Go Bruins.